Hello everyone, it is Schmidt here, and today I thought we would go through 5 things that I don't want to see return in Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, this is not just from World, these are from multiple games. World being the primary example because I feel like, apart from 4 Ultimate, it is the closest thing we have to Wilds in terms of, you know, the quality of the game, the way the game plays, etc, etc. So, I want to go through 5 things, yeah, like I said, that I don't want to return, because sometimes there's some things you don't want back. You know, we talk about returning monsters. I'd like every monster to return, except for a couple. But there are features I don't want to see back. So let's get straight into that. Now, the first thing I just don't want to see back, honestly, I don't want to see another Fatalis set. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't actually mean Fatalis' set. I wouldn't be that offended if Fatalis came back. I don't think he needs to come back yet. But I wouldn't be offended. I think he's a great hunt. And I think his set looked awesome. What was wrong with his set is it became, once you got the Fatalis set, there was no need to set build. At all. Ever. You just ran Fatalis set with one other piece of something else and that is it. There was nothing that could even outcompete Fatalis in anything. And I think that really killed set building for that game. Now when you go ahead and look at Rise and Sunbreak, it has a lot more variety. And I feel like we need more variety at the end game of this game. Do not give us a monster in a title update that eliminates the need for any other monster set in the game, because I think what that ends up being is it just feels like you get to that monster and you're like, okay, now what? Like, okay, you've made the set. Now there's no reason to go and farm other monsters for their weapons or for their armor. And not even their weapons either. It was a shame. And I don't want to see that come back. I really don't. Again, Fatalis as a monster was fantastic, but the way he just broke the meta completely, I really didn't enjoy. And you guys might disagree with that, but I really did not enjoy the way that just destroyed the end game for me. So, yeah, don't want to see that return. Moving on to the next one. Limited hunts for decorations. Now, what do I mean? Apart from the tempered quests, the investigations that would give you decorations, when World ended and they released the event quests to everyone, the one quest that everyone farmed, or 1, 2, or 3 quests, I guess, were the tempered elders. The main 2 I would say you would hunt were Lunastra and Teostra. Now, the amount of tempered Teostras I have killed has now probably tripled the amount of monsters in general I have killed, and that is probably purely just to the fact that it is the best way to farm decorations, and I cannot get my attack 4 jewel. I'm missing 1 for my builds, and it annoys me. And I'll never go back to that, I don't think, because Wilds is coming, and I have no need to. I want there to be an organic and fresh way to be able to farm decorations. If they're going to have RNG split decos, because we know we can craft base decos, but if the split decos are going to be RNG based, give us a wide range of hunts we can farm them in. Do not limit it or make there be an optimal way through 1 specific hunt or 2 specific hunts. Spread it out through so many different hunts that we have the options to hunt. I don't want the end game of Monster Hunter to be 3 monsters. I want it to be the roster, if they can make that happen. That would be really cool. Because I'll be honest, I never wanted that experience again. I'm so tired of Teostra that I'd be happy if it never returned for another Monster Hunter. Sorry, Volcanic, I know he's your favourite monster, but I don't know, man. It's just tired. Teostra's not a bad monster, but they need to do something about that because it was not fun. It really wasn't fun, and I'm sure anyone who got on that deco grind would agree with me there. Now, the third thing I don't want to see return for Wilds, or for any Monster Hunter game, is Duratodus. Why did he return in Rise? Why did he exist? Everyone agrees Duratodus shouldn't ever return again. It shouldn't exist. It's the worst Piscine Wyvern, apart from maybe Cephadrome, and Cephadrome is ancient, so we can't count that. Otherwise, it is by far the worst Piscine Wyvern. To be the worst of the worst is not... It's not a good sign for a monster, is it? The worst of the worst set of monsters. And yeah, I don't want to see this ugly mud ball of a fish ever again. It was offensive to fight because it was so boring and bad. It was forgettable. I had to farm it for Torrent Sacks back to back. And I never want to see that again. So yeah, I hope you can all at least agree on that one. And our 4th point here, I don't want to see tempered monsters back. Now, I don't mean I don't want an end game more difficult monsters, but the form of tempered monsters where it's literally just monster hit harder, monster have more health, I don't want to see back, right? Like, it's just artificial inflation and it's not fun. I want new versions of monsters. Anomaly were interesting, but again, it was more just inflated. I want to see something like frenzied monsters, or like kind of like the Apexes, something with a new moveset. Give them new movesets, give them new weapons, give them new abilities. I want to see some crazy stuff for the end game of monsters. Like the Rathalos we saw in the trailer, right? I want to see something like that as the whole end game system. I want a ton of monsters that have those forms. Don't know what they call them. Maybe it's Frenzy again, who knows? I want to see that back. I want to see some crazy endgame system focusing on basically these buffed up monsters that have new movesets, not entirely new, but some new moves, and some kind of new mechanic. Where we had the new mechanic with anomaly monsters and the buffs through Tempered, they were great, but they were just number inflations really. I want both put into one monster with new movesets for that monster. I think it really needs that, because I think the endgame system of both games became dry quite quickly. Anomaly less so for me, because there was a progression system through that, whereas World's endgame system was incredibly dry. I think it could really benefit the game a lot. Now, the last thing I want to mention is I don't want to see any bad HR caps or MR caps. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think Runa Gigante is the best example. So you finish Iceborne, okay? You get through Iceborne, you then can go into the Gaiden Lands. You then progress through, and you take on Rajang. You then take on Stygian Zenogre. You then can immediately do Raging Brachy, which I think is insane doing Raging Brachy that low MR. Then you can do Elatrion and then Fatalis, all at an incredibly low master rank. Where Runa Gigante is all the way at MR 100 is an absolute joke compared to those monsters. Now, I think that was just badly designed in that sense, and I think Rise was a little bit better, even though I think MR 160 is a little bit of a high ask for the average player. I think they need to find a way to balance it so that title update monsters come in at HR caps. If they need to. Maybe Mizutsune doesn't need to as a starting monster, but, you know, if they start bringing things like, I don't know, like Dia Morales, Gogmazios, whatever, they're going to be tough. Please, for the love of God, put a nice HR cap on that. And do not limit one of our base game monsters to HR 100, because it's stupid, especially when you finish the story at, what is it, MR 16 or something crazy, and then or it might be MR 20, something like that, and then you have to jump to MR 100 for your next actual MR locked monster, I guess you could call it. It's insane. I understand that there was the Gaiden Lands secret monsters like Brute, Tigrex, etc., that were also MR locked based on the Gaiden Lands levels, but there was no explicit like, hey, reach this, you get to hunt this. Whereas with Runa Gigante, there was that. I didn't like that. I feel like the other monsters should have been put on the other MR caps, they should have been spread out, and I want to see that for this as well, because I think getting people to fight Elatrion and Fatalis, like especially players who came after they released that low MR, is incredibly deceiving, because you need so much more time to build sets for those monsters than they give you. But hopefully you guys can agree with my points. If you don't agree with them, let me know in the comments. Let me know anything you don't want to see come back from the old games. I'm sure there's more from the 4th gen and below that I haven't mentioned. Honestly, I just don't think they relate as hard, because a lot of their things have already been taken away anyway. But yeah, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next video. In a bit.